about. Well, in 1994, our National Institute of Health discovered something they did a study. They took mice, and they ran mice through a maze. And as they ran the mice through the maze, they systematically took the brain of the mice out. Imagine, they wanted to find out, where does the brain store memories for this maze? They got to the point where the mice had no brains left. They only had brain stems, and they're still running through the maze. They came to the conclusion that the information is not stored in the tissue, it's stored in the field. If you go to our National Institute of Health, you'll see there, in 1994, they said that we have a biosphere. Now, you call it the aura, the energy system of the body. That's where your information is stored. Think of your brain as the hardware that interacts with this information system. So it's not just gurus that have a corona discharge. You know, you've seen pictures where they have this, they just have more energy than you do. You can have that same amount of energy. I've got that one real guru that doesn't tell you you can do the same thing I'm doing. You just don't want to take the time to do it. I don't have the time to sit and meditate 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day or go to the Himalayas. And I still remember Dr. Maroon, he said to me, we did this in, it was over in, I think it was in, where was it? We were at Guadalupe University. And I took somebody up on the stage and I did their brain, I had them do BrainTap, and I showed their brain profile was the exact same as the brain profile we just did with the guru. They go, well, that's cheating. That guru's been meditating for 30 years. I said, cheating? What do you mean? They cheat all the time. I said, what do you mean? I said, have you ever meditated to a candle? Anybody here ever meditated to a candle? The Jayoti meditation, you put a candle in the room, you look at it, you meditate. That candle flickers at 10 hertz frequency. Guess what happens? Your brain matches that frequency, and you get into 10 hertz frequency. You start creating alpha. Your body then resonates that frequency down to the body. You start creating that same frequency. That's cheating. He said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, why did the gurus go to the Himalayas? I go, that's cheating. He goes, what do you mean? I go, the Himalayas actually resonate at 7.8 hertz frequency. They call it the Schumann frequency. The mountain range, resonates to 7.8 hertz frequency. That's the brainwave of theta. Guess what theta resonates to? When it's resonating in your body, you create something called gamma. That's a neurotransmitter. That is a precursor to something called DMT, the God molecule. If you want to have a spiritual experience, resonate in the mountains. You ever heard the expression, I had a mountaintop experience? That's because we psychologically and physiologically know that if we get into that environment, our body will have those spontaneous breakthroughs. We're designed for that. It's not something you have to go through a mystery school or go into a gas ram for the rest of your life. You are designed for that. You were born for that. The problem is life is taking us all away from it because we think we can't do both. The reality is we can do both. You can be in the world and of this other world. But you have to remember which one you're in. Because if you don't, people go you crazy. You know, so you have to, but God crazy is not as other crazy, but you want to be able to do both of those things. This is something that I like to tell people. When you think of life, and I told you about the study, when you think of life as a threat, you're shutting down your nervous system. We've shown it many, many times. If you tell me somebody, we've had this happen a lot of times, it shows somebody says, I want you to give them a brain scan because they're so negative. I want to find out what's going on. I said, I'm telling you right now, we probably won't be able to do anything until we shift that thinking. Because if somebody has negative thinking, they actually block health. It's like their body says, I can't be positive and be unhealthy. You can't be positive and be unhealthy. You've got to be positive and be healthy. People can look like they're not healthy. They can look, somebody goes, why is that person so healthy? And they don't even look healthy because they have a positive attitude. That positive attitude is a lot better than being, you don't have to be thin and strong. If you're thin and strong and you're negative, you're going to get sick. You're not going to have a good life. You're going to have ulcers or whatever. I mean, a lot of people like that. The number one thing in all studies with longevity, the number one thing you can do that most people never talk about, but it's in every study, positive thinkers outlive negative thinkers 6.5 years. 6.5 years, just by thinking positively. So that's the first thing we need to do. Remember, the first thing is start reframing all those limitations you have in your life. When you start reframing those limitations, when you take those limitations and say, wow, what if I could make that a positive? What am I learning from that experience? What can I take out of that? What is my superpower? Because that's your kryptonite right now. If you think about Superman, he has kryptonite. Your kryptonite is whatever that is, whatever that negative thing that's stopping you from doing what you want to do, that's what you need to resolve. So Now, thanks to Dr. Owen, I don't need to go over this as he already did. But as you think about these different brainwave states, the two that we want to get you into are alpha and beta. If I was to scan everyone in this room, hopefully I would see a good balance. Beta would be, gamma typically is around 2 to 3%. But I've seen people, we've scanned at 27%. These are healers. Usually I say, what do you do? They're like massage therapists or doctors and people like that. They're healers. They just have this high energy because gamma is the bass drum to the brain. Almost every person we've ever seen in a dementia study has almost no gamma activity. You need at least 2 to 3. Think of it like a marching band. The beat drum, or if you're singing in bhajan, the person who's keeping the rhythm with everybody. That's gamma. Now, when you think about beta, when we're awake, beta should be about 45% of our prevailing awareness. That's when we can react. It is negative, like you said. There is fear, frustration, and anxiety. That's all present here. But there's also grace, love, acceptance. It's what we have to focus our attention on. If we drop into alpha, alpha should be about 30% of our prevailing awareness. Beta should be 10%. Delta should be almost non-existent when we're awake. In fact, the less delta you have, the healthier, the stronger, the more vibrant you're going to be. The more delta you have, you might have heard the expression, we use it all the time in America, the masses are asleep. They say it all the time. And what we've shown, we've done about 30,000 brain scans in the last 10 years, and I can tell you they're not asleep when they want to be. That brain scan I showed you is about normal. That's about a normal scan we see with our clients that our doctors see. Not all the doctors are that way because they're taking care of themselves, but their clients are like that. So we need to give more alpha and beta activity. This is the magical part. As you're sitting here right now, each one of you in this room, you have 10 billion miles of crystalline structure that's called DNA. 10 billion miles of it. Right here in this room. Every one of us has that. We could go to Pluto and back on our DNA. That DNA, as we sit here, is absorbing energy from the room around us in the form of light, sound, and vibration. It's pulsating that light out into our body, downloading, just like a computer would download from the internet. That information is coming into us, and we're uploading information. Just like we're on a Wi-Fi network. Have you heard the expression, the Wi-Fi's down? Anybody heard that before? You're in the office, you go, hey, the internet's down. Did you ever hear that? The internet's never down. The source is never down. Cosmic consciousness is never down. Your upload and download is never down. Your access to it is. Just like if you don't have the code to get into your Wi-Fi, you can't get on the internet. You have a code. That code happens to be an alpha and beta. In fact, the deeper you go, the more you open up that code. The more you open up that code, the more you download. You get information. And it comes through the crystalline structure of DNA in the form of light called biophotonic exchange. It pulses